I just want to say one thing. Everybody keeps saying it's not pornography. I'm like, okay, let me look up the definition. It's a noun. It's printed or visual material containing the explicit description or display of sexual organs or activity. That's the definition of pornography. That's what those two books have. That's it.
Great. We can all see your faces. We all know who you are. At least you have the courage to stand up here and say it. Use the words you really want to use.
Ladies and gentlemen,
shut the fuck up at her pitiful scream. A plea to please no, Daddy. No, it hurts. This is the shit that we have going into our libraries, and you're complaining about anti-LGBTQ? I've been attacked all week on the Wyndham Community Board because I'm sticking up for my children. This is absolutely ridiculous.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to First Reaction TV. My name is J Mart. So unfortunately tonight we have another school district, another school, and another school board meeting that just gets out of hand. This one takes us to Wyndham, Maine for an RSU14 School District board meeting. So every time I do one of these videos, I think I found the craziest school board meeting yet. Unfortunately, it is the case yet again, where there are so many issues at this one. There are so many parents upset. I think nearly 100 parents tried to speak at this meeting. And on top of that, this isn't your average transgenders in sharing restrooms and sharing locker room spaces. It is that, but there's other stuff with it. There's also concerns about sexually explicit books that were found in the library. And on top of that, there were these disgusting surveys that were handed out from the teachers to the students asking sexual questions. So we have a ton of different stuff we're going to talk about tonight. We have parents on both sides of this argument, so we are going to hear from both sides on this. So it should be a good show. I appreciate you watching. Please hit that like button, comment, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, we just hit 2,000 subscribers, and I seriously can't say how much I appreciate all your guys' support enough. So thank you for everybody out there that has either liked, commented, or subscribed. Thanks a ton, guys, and please enjoy the video. And just one more thing before we get started. I actually wasn't planning on doing another school board meeting for my next video, but I had someone reach out in the comments. Smokey the Beast sent me this lead. He told me how crazy his school board meeting was from the area that he was from. So I appreciate the lead, man. I can't say thank you enough. Thanks for watching, guys.
The book Genderqueer is complete with all the trappings of a debased mind. You should know, those who promote this trash, that your mind is in danger of being lost. Your mind is reduced in quality and value. You have become futile in your thinking, unprincipled, and your mind is profane perpetually.
right off quick, we need to have them stop handing out pornography, no matter how you identify or anything else. I have really nothing against anybody, but this is absurd and everybody knows it. Thank you.
According to the child care licensing rules that I have to follow as a state licensed provider, if I expose a child to profane language, depictions of violence, use of illicit drugs, or sexual content, it's considered illegal. I am prohibited from doing that.
Some knowledge is too heavy for children. When you are older and stronger, you can bear it, but for now, you must trust me to carry it for you. It is not perfectly normal for the adults in the room to entice and provide sex manuals, erotic stories, and graphic illustrations to pollute and exploit children, especially against their parents' will.
I am aware there's more than one book in question, but the one I specifically saw was Genderqueer, so that's where I'll focus some of my comments. When I first heard about the book, I did some research for myself. I was horrified by what I saw. I was able to read some of the book before I decided I'd seen enough. The pictures in this graphic novel are indeed graphic. The accompanying language is shocking and profane. I'm not even comfortable sharing examples here because of how uncomfortable it makes me as an adult.
I am here to bring light onto the book Genderqueer, in which inside you will not only find sexual depictions of children engaging in sexual activities, but also you will find a very concerning website called kink.com. The following categories within that site include gangbanging, family ties, which is indeed incest, anal vaginal fisting, bondage, cream pies, and we're not referring to Little Debbie snacks. Also, double anal. And just so you all know, we are not going anywhere and the fire will not be put out.
All right, everybody, I hope you guys are all enjoying your Little Debbie snacks while you're watching this and enjoying your cream pies. Next, the first time I heard this, I'm not going to lie, I thought the rhetoric was a little over the top. You know, you never know how serious these claims are, especially referring to books as pornography. And until I actually did the research and I looked this stuff up, I had no clue how bad and how serious this was. Now, once again, we're not talking about this stuff for adults in society and what that conversation means to society. We are strictly talking about this book as it means to children having access to them. And not only children having access to them, but the school providing that access to the kids. All right, so here's some of the pages out of the book that the school provides to the students. It describes a young girl as a young child and young teenager going through puberty. It talks about pornography, gay pornography, getting yourself off, pretending you have male parts, talks of tasting your own slime, basically describing a teenager with gender dysphoria. Now this last page I'm not going to describe to you, and you guys can just look at it for a minute and see if you came to the same conclusions that I did. I'm sorry, but if I saw a grown man trying to read this to a child in the park, and a child, 10-year-old, 11-year-old, 12-year-old, 13, 14, doesn't really matter. If I saw them trying to read this book or talking and mentioning about things that are in this book, I'd grab them up. And I'd be on the phone with, you know, emergency services immediately to tell them that there's a predator at the park. That's how bad this actually is. Somehow, through this guise of diversity, equity, and inclusion, we have now made it appropriate that adult strangers, adult men, can talk to a young child about this stuff in the book. The pictures we saw, the actions we saw, we are going to make that okay. As a society, that's what we're deciding. That's what this school district is deciding. Hell, that's what they decided. Like, they're past this point. They've already decided that it is okay to have these conversations with your teacher if you choose to, or your guidance counselor if you choose to. This is such a dangerous and slippery slope, because the biggest worry to all this isn't the children getting access to this or having access to it. It's having adults have the access to read this to kids. It's having adults have the reach to read this to a child and it not be inappropriate. This is dangerous, and it should not be anywhere near a school district or a school district providing this to children. Alright, so now that we heard from parents on one side, and we saw parts of the book, and we know what they're talking about now, let's hear from some people on the other side of this argument.
After researching a little bit, it has been shown statistically that 9.5% of American teens identify as LGBTQ. Because of this, public schools should recognize the need for inclusive resources in the libraries. It is important that young adolescents feel safe. These materials provide this feeling.
I'm here to speak in support of circulating diverse literature, books that uplift marginalized voices and experiences. This 10% does not magically transform overnight on their 12th birthday. They are 11-year-olds, they are 7-year-olds, and they are babies sometimes. I want to propose that RSU14 start hiring for a diversity, equity, and inclusion coordinator. Someone to intentionally integrate diverse, age-appropriate literature and organize a unified district plan to tackle topics like racism, homophobia, ableism, xenophobia, etc.
If we ban books such as genderqueer, we're banning inclusivity, and we are telling students that see any part of themselves that they don't belong.
And when I learned that there's a movement to remove supposedly obscene books from the library, I realized I had to get involved. I read Genderqueer and Alex and Charlie just today. I have zero problem with this book being offered in the library, and I say that as a parent of 3 young kids. I can imagine that young people who are questioning their own identity would find it enormously helpful to read this book. Yes, there are a few, very few, drawings of sexual acts in the book. They are representing real things that happen in real life. This is not pornography. It is not obscenity. It is art. It is literature.
1933, May 10th, there was a mass burning of books in the center of Berlin, 20,000 books. I understand that that is a giant leap from 2 or 3 that are in public school libraries. However, denying inclusivity is how that all started. First, they went after one group. Nobody said anything because they were not part of that group. Then they went after another group. Still, nobody spoke up because they were not part of that group. Where does it stop? What's next? To Kill a Mockingbird, Romeo and Juliet.
Every single one of these arguments is just eye-rolling from start to finish. If you're tying this book to somebody's existence, then you have more issues than worrying about where this book is. Because tying something this sexually explicit to somebody's actual existence, not only that, children's existence, you shouldn't be in charge of children in the first place. If this book in your head goes from, oh man, I see this ties in with kids, you should be nowhere near a child. Nowhere near a child. Next, to say that Romeo and Juliet's next. Well, guess what? If William Shakespeare wrote a bunch of stuff about Juliet giving people blowjays and handjays in the back of a car somewhere and then drew a whole bunch of pictures about it, I'm sure Romeo and Juliet would be banned in schools. But because there aren't pictures of Juliet giving people blowjays, then it's not banned. Like, this is some pretty simple stuff here. This is really simple stuff. You know, if somebody said, hey, we can't watch the movie Shawshank Redemption in school, Shawshank Redemption isn't banned. You just can't play it in school because it's not an age-appropriate theme for children to be watching or seeing some of the content that is inside that film. Yes, Shawshank is a great movie. It's amazing. But there are certain scenes in that movie that can really, really mess up a young child's head. So once again, just because it can't be played in school does not mean that it's banned.
I didn't think genderqueer was pornographic because there's a difference between explicit and pornographic. Obscenity means material that is meant to titillate. This is genderqueer is material that is a memoir.
Behind the more public practiced attempts to link the book in question to concerns about basic decency or pornography, all pretenses of charitability are off, where people are being called groomers and pedophiles for supporting trans kids, or what they term the woke agenda, whatever that means.
But I'm here today to say that very simply, I do not support banning any books in any of our schools. I have seen both the books in question. I think, as was stated previously, the issue is intentionally conflated.
And I just want to say, I'm just sick of people debating my mere existence. Seriously. My personal life is none of your business, nor is my happiness. I agree with some of you. Well, the rest of you, please listen to me very carefully. This isn't how you care about kids. You just care about your bigoted ideas and ignorance. Stop pretending and just support these trans kids. They always have a much higher suicide and murder rate than any other group in the US. Kids will die and hearts will break if this ideology continues to spread. And being a grown and transition queer person myself, I will always have a voice for them. We've always been here and we will continue to be here no matter what you do. I'm curious if you will ride the current with us or fight it to the wrong side of history.
Well, if you don't know what the woke agenda is, then you're probably a part of it. The level of indoctrination inside school systems coast to coast in the United States is 10 times worse than anybody has any actual idea. This stuff is commonplace. There's no reason why you can find and pick out a school on the West Coast in California somewhere, and then come the whole way across the country to the East Coast, somewhere like Maine, that is as far east and as far north as you can get, and they're learning the same things. From Southern California to Northern Maine, you have the same ideologies being taught in schools and taking place. How would that be possible if it was not inside the school districts themselves? So I'm telling you, I think things are actually worse off than people have any idea. I've said this before in some of my other videos, so just be aware of it. People are fighting for this, like 100%. You know, sometimes you'll meet an extreme leftist and they'll say, "Oh, this just isn't happening. We're not fighting for that. We're not doing that at all. It's just it's not going on." And the bottom line is, it is going on. It's going on. People are fighting for it. People are advocating it. They're sneaking books like this inside school systems without the parents have any knowledge of them even existing or that it's even happening. You know, the one woman that spoke that said that obscene is different, pornography is different, and to be obscene, it must titillate, and like, she had no clue what she was talking about. Everything she said was flat out wrong. Pornography does not have to titillate to be pornography. Obscenities don't have to titillate to be obscene. She had no clue what she was talking about. There's some screws loose upstairs on some of these people, okay? They are going to push this crap because they think they're doing the right thing. People have made them believe they're doing the right thing. And if these parents are supposedly to blame for all these so-called high rates of self-harm in the transgender community, then maybe they should look at themselves for once. And maybe they should realize that promoting and sexualizing young children, or teaching them that, hey, your life needs to revolve around a sexual identity as a 10-year-old, as an 11-year-old. Maybe if you took that away from them and you got them back to just being a child, maybe it'll help some of their self-harm rates, you know? Maybe it'll help them improve their lives, not being tied to a book, not being obsessed with a sexual life that they have no clue about. Alright, so now that we heard some of these people, let's get back into the meeting and let's find out some of the other things that this school district has been doing to their students.
I volunteered here. I went quickly online when I got done today and looked and grabbed the current volunteer application. Besides name, address, and phone number, there's only 3 questions on that volunteer application. 2 of the 3 deal with sex. I have it if you want to see it.
The other issue is boys saying they're queer and allowed in the girls' bathrooms. How are they proving they're queer? Just because they say they are? Are you making them do a blood test? No. Are you making them do a psychological evaluation? No. Are you just allowing them in the girls' bathroom? You waiting for a rape to happen? Because that's what's happening. Boys are saying they're queer, allowed in girls' bathrooms, and rapes are happening in high schools around this country.
We continually hear about how school is supposed to be a safe place. I think it's quite the opposite, actually. Kids are uncomfortable using the restrooms because the opposite sex is permitted to use the bathroom of their choice if they identify as that gender. The school needs to do its job and teach the basics and leave the parenting up to the parents. Why are our children being given surveys that ask how old they were when they first had sex, if they've had oral sex, how many partners they've had, and what gender they identify as? This is nobody's business but that child and their parents. The NWEA assessment scores for Wyndham for last year show that 48.5% of students fall below expectations for English, and 68% fall below for math. Isn't that where our focus should be? Instead, the school is teaching how many genders there are and bringing pornographic books into the library.
I've asked the question, it's where the parents get frustrated with the school board, because you say you're open about this stuff, and all of a sudden what happens is you get a poster up on the school wall that my 11-year-old takes a picture of and shows me. And what it says, if your gender, pronoun, or name has changed, you may request an update to your school records. The name gender change request form is available at this website, at this link. Your school counselor is available if you have questions or want support. My 11-year-old saw this poster, as did all your 11-year-olds that went to the middle school. How do you think that well, without my knowledge? Honestly, without my knowledge. That's why the parents are a little bit frustrated, because there's another question that I get frustrated with the school board because I've asked it many times. I've never gotten an answer. You say, ask the question, we'll do it. Send an email, we'll answer your question. I've never got an answer. And what that question was, is who within the entire SU14 school system is qualified, has the education, certification, qualification, designation, degrees, etc., to talk to my child about her sexuality. This is a heavy. Can you tell her to be silent, please? A school council is, I never got an answer to that from the school board. I wanted them to bring someone forth. Like, I think if they're bringing such just porn to the school, they might have researched it. No one was brought forward. You have no one in that expertise, or at least you haven't told me so.
Many of the community members don't realize this, but the last couple of falls, there's a trend with a school that's giving a survey to the students. How old were you when you had sexual intercourse for the first time? Here are the options: 8 years old or younger, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 or more. How many people have you ever had sexual intercourse with? Is it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or more? What are kids thinking? Oh my gosh, I've never done that. There's something wrong with me. I'm going to put it back on you for a moment, because some of you are for this and some of you are not. But if I were to say to Kate Bricks, said, if I asked you, when was the first time you ever had sex? Was it 8 years old? Or if I said to Jenny Butler, what age did you what age did you first have oral sex? Was it 9 years old? It's a little uncomfortable hearing those questions. What do you think it's like for a child? Okay? As far as the books are concerned, hey, if I said to Jenny Butler, why don't you have a story time? Get all the kids in your neighborhood together, get these books out and read it to them. Or if I said it to you, Mr. Howell, why don't you get these books, it's so educational, Brandon, put it in the youth group at your church. And I'm going to tell you why you wouldn't do it. Because you'd be called a pedophile and you'd be arrested. And I mean that with the most respect.
The guy here at the end did like a great job. He said, hey, Jenny Butler, what are the women's name, I guess, that's on the school board up there? What was the age that you first gave oral sex? That was absolutely hilarious. I wish he was like better equipped and he was a better speaker, because like he really could have pulled that off. But like that was a great point to show how outrageous this stuff is. That if someone would just walk up there to an adult on the school board and say, hey, Jenny Butler, when's the first time you gave head? Like, that's insane. That's insane. But then these people, the same people, are going, let's ask a 9-year-old that. Like, also insane. Pretty insane, right? So these people, they get so caught up in their heads, and it's like the whole conversation with higher learning as a whole right now in this country, where these people are smart, and they're so smart that they're stupid. Like, this is just stupidity. They overthink things, they outsmart themselves, and they end up overthinking a situation that just isn't needed. You don't need to ask a 9 or a 10 or an 11, 12. You don't need to ask those kids this kind of stuff, especially without their parents knowing. Like, you didn't even alert their parents you're going to be having this talk or this survey? For real? So like I said at the beginning, there's so much content at this meeting because there were so many different issues going on. There were so many parents that spoke. I think this video ended up being almost like a 4-hour video that I had to comb through. So I think I'm actually going to have to do a part 2 and maybe do like a best of scenario or something, because there are a ton of different parents that got up there and made some really great points that I couldn't fit everything into just this one video. But I think I'm going to close the video out with a parent towards the middle of the meeting, and she tells a story where her daughter was harassed and bullied because she wasn't gay, but she dressed gay, and she listened to gay music, and she was a part of a civil rights club, and because she wasn't gay, she got bullied because everybody said she was supposed to be gay. Like, it's only something that could happen in the current climate that our school systems are in. And this mother and parent summarizes up this climate extremely well, so I'm going to let her finish this out. Please hit that like button, comment, let me know what you think of the video, subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. I really appreciate all you guys watching. Thanks, guys.
Like many of you, I'm a mom first, heart and soul. And harassment in school is a problem. With 2 kids through, 1 in high school now, I've witnessed the dramatic change in our schools firsthand. My daughter's middle school experience was a genuine struggle. She was harassed about her sexuality by students who are asked by the Civil Rights Club to open discussions about these private matters as part of their club goals. She's not political, but she does not want to talk about her sexuality in school. They insisted she was gay because she dressed gay and listened to gay music. She was then called homophobic because she wasn't at least bi. The same club in middle school put out their own survey without notifying parents, asking kids about their sexuality, then handed out pronoun PIDs for kids to label themselves in open discussion in school, and open discussion in school about sexuality and gender. It took over every aspect of the school for 3 years. By emphasizing differences and forcing conversation, discrimination and bullying are dividing kids more than ever. This literal programming for tolerance, acceptance, and equity is woven into curriculum, clubs, library content, and counselors' programming, and lawyers ensure policy is loose enough to enable it. This year, her teacher repeatedly told her class he was uncircumcised following multiple warnings.
I'm sorry, we're not...
When every aspect of school encourages the blurring of private boundaries, how can we be surprised? You board members apparently didn't know that genderqueer was in the library, but now you do. So I ask you, what are you going to do to supervise a superintendent, to supervise a librarian, to ensure policy IJJ is being ethically considered in material selection?
Thank you.
But I want to know from the school board why they think it is okay for students to have access to books with explicit pictures that show and talk about sucking cock. First of all, I don't care whose cock is being sucked. I just don't think that books, period, should be in school that talk about sucking cock.